Marcus Lang considered the hiss of the espresso machine to be the most complex signal he was likely to encounter all day. It was a familiar, comforting sound in his small Silicon Valley apartment. A morning ritual that stood in stark contrast to the quiet chaos of his job. As a junior data analyst for a satellite communications firm, he spent his days sifting through cosmic noise, searching for patterns that were almost never there. He was, in essence, a highly paid beachcomber, sorting through the galaxy's static in the faint hope of finding a message in a bottle. The universe, in his experience, was stubbornly, disappointingly silent. He poured the dark liquid into a ceramic mug, the steam warming his face as he stared out the window at the hazy California sky. On the wall, a framed photograph gathered dust. It showed a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and a smile that never quite reached them, standing beside a blackboard filled with equations that looked more like art than science. Dr. Evelyn Lang, his mother, a ghost who had left him a legacy of genius and a lifetime of unanswered questions. He often wondered what she would think of his work, of him meticulously filtering the cosmos for profit, for commercial clients who cared more about bandwidth than breakthroughs. She had listened for the symphony of the universe. He was paid to ignore it. The first signal arrived without fanfare, a ghost in the machine. It wasn't a blast of coherent data or a friendly alien greeting. It was an anomaly, a subtle ripple in the background radiation of the cosmos, a frequency that should not have existed. At the Arecibo Observatory, nestled in the humid hills of Puerto Rico, Iris Thorne, a man whose patience had been weathered by 40 years of silence, saw it first. It was a pulse, a single, impossibly brief spike of energy that repeated every 103 minutes. It was too regular to be natural, too faint to be a threat. It was a whisper. He logged it, his heart giving a familiar, skeptical flutter. He had seen ghosts before. Pulsars mimicking intelligence, military satellites on classified orbits, even faulty wiring in the receiver. He ran diagnostics, checked his equipment, and cross-referenced with other observatories. The signal was still there. Within weeks, other radio telescopes confirmed it. Jodrell Bank in England, FAST in China. It was real, a faint but persistent heartbeat from the direction of the Oort cloud. The news trickled out, first in scientific journals under dry, academic titles, then in hushed tones on late-night news programs. The public, saturated with fictional apocalypses, met the news with a collective shrug. Another blip, another headline that would be forgotten by the next news cycle. Marcus followed the story with a professional, detached interest. He ran his own analysis on the public data, confirming the signal's artificiality with a certainty that unsettled him. He felt a flicker of something, not excitement, but a strange, academic curiosity his mother would have appreciated. He could almost hear her voice, a dry rasp over a crackling phone line from years ago. The universe doesn't shout, Marcus. It hums. You just have to know how to listen. He dismissed the thought and focused on his work, on the predictable, profitable silence of commercial satellite traffic. The silence broke on a Tuesday. The Colossus did not arrive in a blaze of fire or a thunderous roar. It simply appeared. One moment, the space above Earth's atmosphere was empty, monitored by thousands of satellites and ground-based telescopes. The next, it was there. It was a void, a shape that seemed to absorb light, a jagged silhouette against the stars that defied every known principle of spacecraft design. It was not aerodynamic. It was not elegant. It was a mountain of impossible angles and silent obsidian surfaces, hanging in high orbit as if it had always been there. It was the size of a small country, Panic was a tidal wave that swept across the globe in the speed of light. Every screen on every device showed the same image, the dark, menacing shape hanging over the curve of the Earth. Governments scrambled, communication lines screamed, and financial markets plummeted into freefall. This was not a blip. This was not a whisper. This was a statement. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Nevada desert, General Terrence Madsen stared at a holographic projection of the object, his face a mask of grim disbelief. Madsen was a man forged in the crucible of conventional warfare, a strategist who thought in terms of missile trajectories and kill chains. The object in front of him did not fit any of his models. "Status?" he barked, his voice cutting through the tense hum of the command center. An analyst, a young woman with terror in her eyes, stammered, "No heat signature, sir. No detectable energy output, no emissions. It's cold. And it's not reflecting radar. It's like a hole in space." Madsen said, "It got here somehow. It's using something. Find it." He knew, even as he said it, that they were children pointing sticks at a thunderstorm. For Marcus, the arrival of the Colossus was a personal earthquake. The world's chaos was a distant roar. The silence in his apartment was deafening. That evening, a notification pinged on his laptop. It was an automated alert from a secure cloud storage account he hadn't accessed in a decade. An account that had belonged to his mother. The subject line was a single, chilling word: "If." The message contained a simple alphanumeric key and a set of coordinates pointing to a derelict storage unit in the Mojave Desert. A cold dread, mingled with a terrifying, electric hope, seized him. His mother had been a brilliant physicist, but her later years were consumed by what her colleagues called fringe science, a paranoid obsession with a theoretical energy source she called the resonance wave. She claimed it was a key, a way to harmonize with the very fabric of the universe. Her peers called her a crank. The scientific community ostracized her. She died alone, her life's work dismissed as the ramblings of a madwoman. But she had left him a key tied to an event she could not possibly have predicted. Or could she? The drive to the desert was a blur of asphalt and anxiety. He rented a car under a false name, a precaution that felt both absurd and necessary. The storage unit was a metal box baking under the desert sun. Inside, it was surprisingly cool. It contained a single, heavy-duty server rack and a sealed Pelican case. The server was old, a relic from the late 90s, but it hummed with latent power when he connected his laptop. The alphanumeric key unlocked a single encrypted file, a video message. He clicked play. His mother's face filled the screen. She looked older than he remembered, her eyes etched with a weariness that seemed to transcend time. "Hello, Marcus," she began, her voice a ghost from the past. "If you're watching this, it means I was right. It means they have come. I don't know who they are. A tribunal, a scout, a conqueror. It doesn't matter. What matters is that humanity is no longer alone, and we are hopelessly, tragically outmatched." She gestured to the Pelican case. "In there you will find my life's work. Not the theories they ridiculed, but the practical application. It's a prototype, a proof of concept for the resonance wave drive. It's not a weapon, Marcus. It's a voice. It's a way to show them that we are not just primitives who have stumbled upon fission. It's a way to show them that we understand the music." Her eyes bored into his. "The drive works by attuning itself to the resonant frequency of a localized space-time manifold. Think of it like a tuning fork. Strike it, And it vibrates. The universe is filled with these vibrations, a symphony of cosmic background energy. If you can find the right frequency, you can tap into an energy source that is virtually limitless. But the calculations required are immense. The processing power needed didn't exist in my time, but I suspect it does now. She paused, a flicker of sorrow in her expression. I'm sorry for leaving you. I know I wasn't the mother you deserved. I was chasing ghosts, and I became one myself. But this, Marcus, this is real. Don't let them turn it into a weapon. It's our only chance to have a conversation. The rest is up to you. The screen went dark. Marcus sat in the silence of the storage unit, the weight of his mother's legacy settling upon him. It wasn't just a theory. It was a blueprint, a responsibility. He opened the Pelican case. Inside, nestled in custom-cut foam, was a device that looked like a fusion of an antique astrolabe and a quantum computer. A sphere of interlocking brass rings surrounded a core of crystalline silicon, all of it connected by a web of fiber optic filaments. It was beautiful. It was impossible. And it was his. 3 days after its arrival, the Colossus spoke. It did not use radio waves or lasers. The message bloomed simultaneously in the mind of every head of state, every military commander, and every person of significant authority on the planet. It was a voice, calm and impossibly ancient, speaking every human language at once. We are the Conclave, the voice announced. Aurora, we have observed your species' rapid, chaotic ascent. Your technology has outpaced your wisdom. You have split the atom, but not your own prejudices. You reach for the stars, but you still wage war over lines on a map. This cannot be allowed to continue. The message was not a declaration of war. It was an ultimatum. We are offering you a choice. Cede your sovereignty to the Conclave. Submit to our guidance. We will shepherd you into a new era of peace and stability. We will protect you from the true dangers of this galaxy, dangers your primitive science cannot yet comprehend. Your wars will end. Your poverty will end. Your self-destruction will end. In return, you will relinquish your weapons, your independent technological development, and your freedom to make your own mistakes. You have one standard Earth Week to comply. If you resist, we will not destroy you. We will simply disarm you. We will erect a quarantine field around your solar system, a cage from which you will never escape. You will be left alone, a failed experiment, a footnote in the galactic record. The choice is yours. The ultimatum shattered the fragile, fear-induced unity of Earth's leaders. In a series of frantic, encrypted conferences, the world fractured along old fault lines. Some argued for immediate surrender. They're offering us a utopia. The president of a small developing nation insisted. An end to war and famine. How can we refuse? Others, like General Madsen, saw it as a declaration of war in all but name. It's slavery, dressed up as salvation. He argued, his voice raw with fury. They'll turn us into pets, a docile, neutered species in a galactic zoo. I say we fight. We show them that humanity does not kneel. Fight with what, General? Countered a French diplomat. Our nuclear arsenal is a collection of firecrackers against that. That thing. It crossed interstellar space without us even knowing. We have no weapons that can touch it. Marcus knew he had the only other option. A third way. Not surrender, not suicide, but a conversation. He knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed resources, expertise, and above all, computing power. He made a call using a back-channel number a friend in the intelligence community had given him. He asked to speak to General Madsen. He expected to be dismissed, laughed at, or arrested. He did not expect the general to agree to a meeting. They met in a sterile, windowless room at a secure military facility. Marcus, a lanky civilian in a rumpled shirt, felt hopelessly out of place opposite the decorated, imposing figure of General Madsen. He explained everything: his mother, her theories, the prototype. He laid the device on the table between them. Madsen stared at the strange sphere, his expression a mixture of deep skepticism and desperate hope. "Dr. Evelyn Lang," he said, his voice low. "I remember the file. Brilliant, but unstable. Her work was classified and then buried. We thought it was a dead end." "It wasn't," Marcus said, his voice steady. "She was just ahead of her time. She said the calculations were the key. She needed a supercomputer, something that could run quintillions of calculations per second to find the right frequency." Madsen's eyes narrowed. "We have that. Project Chimera. A quantum computing array here in this facility. We built it to crack any encryption on Earth. Maybe it can crack the universe." He leaned forward, his gaze intense. "What you're proposing? It's a long shot, son. A 1 in a billion chance. It's better than the 2 choices the Conclave gave us," Marcus replied. Madsen was silent for a long moment. He looked at the device, then at Marcus. He saw the same fire in the son's eyes that he'd read about in the mother's file. The fire of a fanatic or a genius. At this point, he wasn't sure there was a difference. "All right, Lang," he said, standing up. "You've got your supercomputer. You've got my resources. You have 4 days. Show me a miracle." The next 96 hours were a blur of frantic, caffeine-fueled work. Marcus was given a team of the military's brightest engineers and physicists. They were skeptical at first, whispering about the crazy Lang theory. But as Marcus walked them through his mother's research, their skepticism turned to grudging respect, and then to feverish excitement. The math was elegant, the physics sound. It was a theory that had been waiting for technology to catch up to it. They integrated the prototype into the heart of the Chimera quantum computer. The machine was a behemoth, a cathedral of cryo-cooled processors and tangled superconducting wires, filling a room the size of a football field. As they worked, Marcus felt a growing connection to his mother. He saw her genius in every equation, her foresight in every design choice. He wasn't just building a machine. He was finishing her life symphony. The computer began its work. It churned through petabytes of cosmological data, searching for the unique resonant frequency of their local space-time. The process was like trying to find a single specific grain of sand on all the beaches of the world. The hours ticked by. The world outside their lab descended further into chaos. Riots broke out in major cities. Political alliances fractured and reformed. The deadline loomed. With 12 hours to spare, they found it. An alarm blared through the lab, a piercing, triumphant sound. On the main screen, a single, impossibly complex waveform glowed. A beautiful, intricate pattern of pure energy. "We have it," one of the engineers whispered, her voice filled with awe. "The resonance frequency. It's stable." Marcus felt a tremor of fear. This was the moment of truth. "Power it up," he said, his voice hoarse. "Route auxiliary power to the core." They channeled a stream of energy into the prototype. The brass rings began to spin, slowly at first, then faster and faster, a blur of gold. The crystalline core began to glow, a soft blue light that pulsed in time with the waveform on the screen. A low hum filled the room, a sound that was felt as much as heard, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate in their very bones. The lights in the lab flickered. The energy output readings on their monitors climbed at an exponential rate. "It's working," Marcus breathed. "It's drawing energy from everywhere." General Madsen stood beside him, his face illuminated by the blue glow. "Can it be weaponized?" he asked, his voice quiet. Marcus looked at the beautiful, humming machine, his mother's legacy. "That's the wrong question, General," he said. "The question is, can we make them listen?" He directed the energy output, not as a beam or a projectile, but as a broadcast, a single, coherent, omnidirectional wave of pure resonance. It was not a weapon. It was a signal, a declaration. It was the sound of a species announcing its presence to the universe, not with a roar of aggression, but with a note of perfect harmony. It was the sound of a tuning fork struck for the first time. Aboard the Colossus, the being that served as the Conclave's primary arbiter felt the wave wash over the ship. It was not an attack. It was music, a complex, structured signal that spoke of a profound understanding of the fundamental forces of the universe, an understanding that their probes had insisted these primitives did not possess. The arbiter had overseen the assimilation or quarantine of 1,000 species over 10,000 years. It had never encountered anything like this. This was not the desperate lashing out of a cornered animal. This was the confident, controlled voice of an equal. The arbiter opened a channel to its fleet. "Reevaluate," it commanded. The primitives have evolved. On Earth, the effect was instantaneous. The voice of the Conclave in the minds of the world's leaders went silent. On the screens in General Madsen's command center, the image of the Colossus remained, but something had changed. A section of the dark, monolithic hull seemed to shimmer, and a smaller vessel, sleek and silver, detached itself and began a slow, deliberate descent into Earth's atmosphere. It was not an attack. It was an invitation, an offer to begin a new conversation. Marcus Lang stood in the humming blue light of his mother's creation, tears streaming down his face. He had done it. He had finished her symphony. Humanity was still in danger. The future was still uncertain. But for the first time in a week, it was their future again. A future they would face on their own terms, with a new voice, a voice that would resonate among the stars. The age of silence was over. The age of conversation had just begun.